Welcome. Hello. It's time for Block Talk. We are on Bitcoin block 435634. I just had a difficulty change. Things are moving along pretty well. The mempools keep nice and low, around 2 megabytes. Bitcoin's, it's chugging along despite all the volatility we're seeing in the price. We got some quick sponsors here. Crypto Tech. These are some guys in Spain that Oh, excuse you. These are some guys in Spain that are doing some projects in the crypto space and some security financial solutions. They're actually going to be working with a local bank, because I think all the banks are kind of catching the Bitcoin fever. They want to make sure they're not going to be the blockbuster when Netflix comes along. It's kind of cool stuff. So yeah, we look forward to hearing from them more. They got a great team. Lots of members on it. And our other sponsor is Bittrex, the premier altcoin exchange. Never been hacked. These guys have got the premium security that anyone can ask for. Their uptime is like next to none. Like any other exchange has had issues with legalities or getting hacked or securities and all that jazz. These guys are actually paving the way. They're going to Capitol Hill and meeting with the regulators to kind of make sure they're not only up to snuff, they're also kind of teaching the newbies who are trying to police this space kind of what should they be looking for. Yeah, really cool stuff. And as usual, I have the live chat going. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. We have our lovely guest. Hi, I'm Alex. I'm not the guest, but I'm here with Ned Scott of Steemit.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Yeah, no problem, man. It was a reigning success to have you on last time. It's actually our highest viewed episode that we've ever had on Blocktalk, so it was really cool. You guys are definitely kind of paving the way for content creators to really get reach further audiences. So it was really a great opportunity to have you and Dan on last time.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. That was, one of the first shows that Dan and I did together. So, we were kind of experimenting with, just what each of us sort of focuses on and things like that. But it was fun. You had a good conversation with Decentral and all those guys. And it's pretty cool to hear that it's the most viewed. I know you've had like the DAO guys on and some other big projects in the space.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe just the search results or whatever. If you search YouTube for Steem, and I think I'm like the third or fourth show, so maybe I just got lucky that way. But no, it's it was really good to have you guys on. We were actually just having a nice little chat before we started here about kind of altcoins in general and trying to beat the Bitcoin price and just I guess markets in general. It's I think it's how a lot of people get into the space is they hear about, huge increase in Bitcoin or maybe even some of these altcoins like Ethereum and then they immediately, I think greed sets in and they want to kind of just make a lot of money, but then hopefully curiosity kind of takes over and they want to learn more about the actual technology side of things, right?
Right. That's the really rewarding part of all of this for me. I think you're right. You kind of get interested by the price because it kind of indicates, there must be a lot of people involved with that. And then you're like, why are they so into it? And wow, what a learning experience it is too. You learn about cryptocurrencies, and who knows, maybe a lot of people came from the gold bug camp or just from the general technology camp. But either way, there's still such a world left to learn. If you're a technology guy, you get to learn about money supply, and there's so many analogies to the way even central banks work, things like that. If you're a money guy and you come in, you get to learn about all this great new technology, so I learned both sides of it when I came in.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have their first experience with kind of trading, starting off buying high and selling low and kind of eventually getting to the other side of that spectrum to kind of learn to buy low and sell high. So I know good friends of mine were initially into like RuneScape, World of Warcraft, or Eve, like learning markets that way kind of, and then they jumped into this space and kind of has a very I guess, video game-esque feel to it.
Oh, that's so true. Actually, that reminds me, I used to be a big Diablo 2 player when I was like 11, 12 years old. And I remember getting on the forums, and I don't know if you ever played that, but you had like, there were things you could gather that you could imbue into different items, and everyone wanted these things called perfect skulls or something like that. And they traded for these rings. And I remember getting on there for the first time, and it was like 16 skulls for one ring. And then months later, it was like 2 skulls for one ring. I'm like, how did that? What's going on there? What causes that to happen?
And now it's going on with what's it? My friends play Counter-Strike, and now it's all about getting knives and guns, and like there's an actual trading market on the other Steem to trade these assets for real money and whatnot. So it kind of comes full circle, it seems.
So how about the future, where somebody figures out how to take items in a video game and sort of cryptographically secure them? Maybe it's items, maybe it's gold. A lot of games just have their own kind of play money. What's going to happen when somebody figures out how to directly link the game world with the cryptocurrency world?
We're already kind of seeing that. Yeah, if you look at there's some counterparty assets where Spells of Genesis, they built a game where they have these cards, like they're trading cards, but they're digital assets, which are basically colored pieces of Bitcoin. And you can use them in their game. And then other games are actually using the same item. So now not only, rings from Diablo are so valuable, you could use them in another game, say World of Warcraft, and then you can have them interchangeable, send them around just like you do Bitcoin. So it's happening now, but very, very slowly. But anyone who wants to learn more, check out the channel down below. We got Spells of Genesis guys on. It's cool.
There's got to be some challenges there, though, with latency. I mean, you talk about like transactions, like the whole thing with like Steem. I don't want to jump into Steem too early, but like the whole thing was we needed to have a really fast blockchain so that when you vote and when you post, the data immediately goes into the blockchain, and the users know without a doubt that their action has gone through. And that's the same experience they get on Facebook. It's the same experience they get in Diablo 2, where they do something, it happens. But with the state of a lot of cryptocurrency, when you do something, it takes 40 minutes or it takes 10 minutes. So, it's kind of a question of, are these assets really keeping up with the game? I don't know. I haven't tried it, so I have to try what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of like with Steem, it's very much more of an active blockchain. Like everything you do gets recorded to the chain, where these assets are very passive. Like you're not sending transactions for every use of them. You basically just prove that you own it, and then it works in the game. So it kind of just is a balance or whatever, and then the game does everything on top of it. It happens off chain. But there are games that do happen on chain. Hunter Coin's one that actually, it's a turn-based game that happens every block. So they have I think it's 3-minute blocks, or maybe it's 1.5 minutes. But it's kind of interesting to see, turn-based games. But yeah, you are limited by the proof of work, where that's one thing I've realized with doing transfers with Steem. Quick, like I do. It's crazy that this delegated proof of stake is able to get these wicked fast block times, and I know Ethereum's planning on even pushing that boundary past 3 seconds. So,
well, when we did our first test nets back in February, we were like, let's do 2-second blocks. We were really pushing for it, but there's so many different layers of the code. Whether it's networking code, P2P code, the shared database, it's trying to keep up. Like it's just tough. And Ethereum, I'm sure those guys are working super hard if they want to beat 3 seconds. We tried. It's really hard. I think it's possible. We thought it was possible, but when you're trying to ship a product, you figure out ways to get to market.
Yeah, no, it's there's technical challenges all around. So is Dan still working with you guys on the Steemit platform, or is he kind of back on BitShares and working on graphene? Or
Dan's fully on board with Steem. He's full steam ahead. We actually just wrote a new shared database to kind of underlie all this and make sure it's super scalable. So he had kind of been heads down in his little concrete office there, and has really been doing good work with a number of guys in the office. So yeah, he's full steam ahead. You know, there's a number of ideas that we're still cooking up for the back end that hopefully the community will get behind. One of them is called Curation Guilds. One of, you know, as we all know, and as we said on the last time we were here on the show, Steem is an experiment. There's a lot of new things here, and the whole rewards for posting, the rewards for curation, you know, were untested. You know, we had algorithms, we had theses. We didn't know exactly what would happen, but one thing we think will help curation and will help sort of increase participation for new users is this idea of curation guilds, where you can take voting power and you can delegate it into a pool, and then other people can come to the pool and they can participate by applying to be part of that pool, and then they get to use that voting power. And so now what happens is you distribute all the voting power to even more people, and what we expect is it's going to sort of, in a way, democratize voting, but really just distribute voting into more people's hands, which makes the wisdom of the crowd stronger. One of the criticisms of the way the experiment is playing out now is that there's too few people truly controlling content selection. And the natural market response has been that people have created these guilds, but sort of off-chain. They've basically said to like whales in the community, people who have a lot of Steem power, they say, hey, let me use your posting key, and I'll get together with 10 other people and do all your voting for you and make sure the curation's really great. And so all we're trying to do with Curation Guilds really is kind of formalize that accounting on the blockchain and make it even easier and more of a low barrier to entry tool for new users that could be both engaging and good for content discovery. So things like that. Dan's you know, he's grinding away. He's our R&D you know, savant, and there's still a lot of cool things coming down the pike.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of like improvements, and sometimes I'm not sure if it's on the website or if it's on the blockchain. Like you guys have like partial upvotes now, where you can give a power gauge of how much you want to upvote. The promote button. That'd be my first question, I guess. Is the promote button right now? You have it going to a null account, and then you can actually sort on the website you're promoting, or how much each post has been promoted by sending to that account. Is that all done on the website, or is there anything done on the blockchain with that?
Right. So the null account is it's just an account. It's an account with no owner. So it's not just an account. It's an account with no owner, and what that means is everything's being burned. Everything being sent to that account is burned, sort of taken out of supply. But what the promoted content section really is another experiment. And what it's doing is it's proving the concept that we can tap into what's being called in crypto as the attention economy. And it really alludes to a greater vision where where these crypto systems and these crypto tokens can be used to drive value into a community in more than just the way that we're currently seeing. Currently, we see all these crypto tokens. What really makes them valuable is strictly speculation. It's speculators coming in and buying up the tokens. But that phenomenon is almost completely separate from the utility. In almost all cases would be my assertion. The utility of the token. So the attention economy to us represents the first time where you can really incorporate a business model to really drive the value of these tokens. So promoted content isn't really achieving that today, but imagine you had Reddit or Facebook or Twitter, and they had, so we're talking about, hundreds of millions of people. If they had one of these tokens like Steemit has, sort of underlying the whole thing, Well, they have huge advertising businesses. So now imagine if the advertisers, in order to buy our attention, and our attention is the valuable resource. If you think about how Facebook's making money, they're taking our time, energy, creativity, but really our attention, and they're turning that into profits for their shareholders. So to kind of flip that in crypto, you have a platform like Steemit, and you basically run it as a nonprofit. And you say, if the advertisers want the user's attention, they have to come in and buy Steem, and then they have to spend the Steem to get ad placement. And when they spend it, it gets burned. So now what you have is an additional stream of capital inflows, where it's really not about speculation anymore. It's about advertisers coming in and buying Steem to get people's attention. It's really a revenue model. Mm-hmm. And if you can kind of imagine a sort of circular economy here now, where you have the advertisers buying, let's say, Steem, and so demand is going up for Steem, and then you have people kind of getting paid as authors, so demand's going up, prices going up. Now there's bigger rewards for authors, is attracting more people, which means there's more attention on the site. And then you have the speculators are still there. So the speculators looking at both those things are saying, okay, well, there's more demand going up because the advertisers want to buy this Steem to get attention, and then more people are showing up. And then you just kind of get this circular economy, which I don't think we've seen in the crypto space yet. We haven't seen crypto tokens truly be used, as a vehicle for transmitting value back to the contributors of some platform. I think that this model that we've begun to uncover, I think it's very much attainable. I think once it's attained, I think it means pretty big things for crypto.
Well, one thing I really liked about it was that you guys finally have some sort of deflationary element in your system now, because that was one thing I asked you about on the last show. Is like, is there anything that's deflationary on this? Like, everything seems to be highly inflationary with the website, or at least with the entire economy of Steem and Steem power and Steem dollars.
Yeah. The way it was designed, I mean, it's another one of these deep experiments, where basically you look at crypto projects and you say, most of the people who get involved in these things really want to be long-term contributors and supporters of the project. So why not reward those people? And so part of the experiment has been to, have the system create new tokens to reward the people who are powered up and who are actually using their influence to make the site better and things like that. In a lot of ways, it's been extremely valuable. You think about when we got hacked, and I think we got hacked just after we were on the show. Maybe it was like a week or two later. And one of the things that saved the whole platform was this long-term vesting mechanism, this Steem power. Because when the hacker essentially came in and had control of accounts, they couldn't really get anything out of the system because everybody was committed long term. So then there was account recovery, and the hacker really made away with almost nothing. It was like $40,000 at the end of the day. So there's been those benefits.
What was the root cause of that hack again?
Oh, the hack, yeah. The hack was an interesting. Such an interesting moment. Oh my God, it was maybe the most stressful 4 days of my life. Where I woke up to a text like, "There's a hacked account." I'm like, no fucking way. And oh my gosh, it just turned into such a whirlwind. But we had our backs against the wall, and we're able to get out of that. But the way it really went down was there was a cross-site script injection with HTML, and basically the hacker just came in and pulled out people's keys, pulled out their owner keys and their active keys. Didn't get their master passwords, but got those keys because the site, it was so early days, Alex. It was so early days, and we had, in our architecture, we had planned not to allow keys to be available in the way that they were, but there was an undersight in the implementation, and the hacker was able to exploit it and get these keys. And then we had our backs against the wall. We were like, all right, well, this is pretty well compromised right now. What can we do? And under that pressure, we came up with something that we truly found to be what that truly saved the blockchain, but also is kind of has major implications for blockchain in general. We came up with the idea of hacked account recovery. And the way it works is if your account is ever compromised, as long as you have an account recovery partner, you can always go back to your account recovery partner with your old password, a password that's been used in the last 30 days. And you can say, hey, I'd like my account back. Can you help me? And they can say yes, as long as you have your old password from the last 30 days. And that's a very important feature because, you know, if you think about a blockchain as a community tool, it's really a tool for empowering a community. I mean, some might argue differently. I don't know, but that's really how we've been seeing it. And if you view it that way, then account recovery is very important because hacks will happen. We can't be so naive to say that we're going to create mainstream applications for crypto and completely ignore, you know, the possibilities of hacks. They will happen, especially when you start to integrate with web applications.
Well, this was one of the things that your critics of Steem have really highlighted is that probably the biggest security threat is that the majority of funds are in a centralized web wallet service is essentially what the website is, right?
Well, no, actually, we don't have control of the money at all. There's nothing centralized here. If it were centralized, if we truly had access to the funds, then we would be a money transmitter. This is very much the blockchain.info model. All keys are client side. So when those keys were compromised in the hack, that's between the hacker and the user. We weren't a middleman there. I mean, we provided this tool, but we don't have we don't have access to your keys. We can't open your wallet. We can't take anything out. It's not possible. So I think, you know, there have been a lot of critics, and I think that a lot of that comes down to education. I think that probably it's been one of our biggest challenges to really inform the public of how these things truly operate, because it's important that the people understand how crypto tools operate. And it's a challenge to really teach everybody that. But I think once people learn how things really work and understand that, you know, it's very analogous to blockchain.info, you're really dealing with a block explorer with some basic wallet functionality, that, you know, people are there's less to be critical of, because, you know, actually we've done things that are very, very, very crypto oriented. We haven't cut corners. You know, we don't want to be a bank. We want to develop tools that allow people to be the masters of their own property and things like that. But we're also developing tools that empower community. So yeah, there's so much new stuff here, Alex, and you know.
Well, yeah, I think it is a very good system for teaching people how to get involved. And I think a lot of new Bitcoin users actually came through the Steemit platform. Like, that was one thing I said to one of the critics was, if you looked at how many all the new users with Bitcoin, I'd say a large majority for a certain period of time were coming from Steem. Like, they were getting their rewards from, you know, blogging, and then they were, you know, figuring out how to send that to an exchange and maybe claim some Bitcoin with it. And yeah, you have a lot of new Bitcoin users because of the Steemit platform. So there's some saving grace there, I think, and it's becoming a pretty good source for Bitcoin or for cryptocurrency news. I know Reddit still has its foothold in the door, but you know, things can always change, especially the DNS attacks that went on the other day. You guys didn't have any downtime, though.
No downtime for us. But I was checking my news that morning, like, what? Why can't I get in? What's wrong with my Wi-Fi? But Steemit was up, so I wasn't sure until I saw an article about it. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Wow, they really took down a lot of infrastructure right then. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, it just kind of shows the flaws in the current model. Like, I know there isn't really any working blockchain-based DNS, but at the same time, like, it seems like an application that could be easily possible. So we'll get there soon, I'm sure, if these things keep happening. But like, have you guys had any downtime as a result of, you know, excess usage or anything like that? Like, the because I
In
know
the
that's
early
one.
days, well, yeah, for the blockchain, no, the blockchain has been running, you know, smooth as butter. You know, it's always ticking. But the website, early on, yeah, I was getting like, you know, buzzed at like 3 in the morning, getting the text, and it's like, oh, gotta, you know, reboot the whole thing. You know, servers went down or something like that. But luckily, that hasn't happened since, you know, since really July. We've brought on a lot of experts to help us prepare to, you know, truly scale and be secure all the way through. So everything is just much more. It just moves a lot more smoothly. There hasn't been really any terrible downtime. But yeah, as far as Bitcoin, you know, and critics and things like that. So the interesting thing about Steemit is it definitely onboards new people to crypto. You know, like my mother has used it. My mother has traded cryptocurrency. How crazy is that? You know, and you know, it attracts all types of people from all over the world. You know, and there's a very even distribution of men and women. You know, there's a high portion of people in their 30s and 40s and things like that. And that's great. You know, if you think about crypto as a movement, things like this are really important. Um, you know, I've always been a Bitcoiner, and I think that Bitcoin has such a beautiful and specific couple use cases. One of those being transfer of value, and another being store of value. And you know, just in running a business, I found Bitcoin to be tremendously useful. Um, and you know, some people continue to ask me, you know, like, so why didn't you guys build on Bitcoin? Why didn't you build on Ethereum and things like that? And I think, you know, Bitcoin, you know, if I don't mind answering that question, I think that it's really an economic question. I mean, Bitcoin certainly has a different level, a different layer of fundamental economics. And from a technical standpoint, I mean, it comes back to the real-time speeds and scalability. You know, you look at something like Reddit, it's doing 500 transactions per second if you include posts and votes, and you have to for something like Steem, because those are blockchain level actions. Um, and then if you look at something like Ethereum, like they're still working with what 10, 12-second blocks and things like that. It's still not real time speed. They have gas costs. You know, it just didn't make sense. But you know, I certainly want to see more tools like Steemit for other cryptocurrencies too. I think there's still some cool things being worked out with Bitcoin, like yours network. I think is cool. Scenario was going to be built on Ethereum. I think Akasha is going to be built on Ethereum. I think social networks and these types of things being built on those other platforms are really cool from an idea standpoint.
I actually came across an Ethereum based one. He might have changed the name, but it was called like Wayward it. Like you know, the smallest unit of Ether is called a Way, WEI, and then Reward it was. So I think people are seeing the model and they can see the potential that you guys have built, and they're, you know, looking to capture the market. But it's kind of now it's becoming a race to innovate. I know yours network is kind of interesting too. He's building a Lightning network.
Yeah, payment channel on Bitcoin. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're building a payment channel on Bitcoin. That's what it
So,
is.
but like you guys actually have the content hosting, like, or at least the
Oh
tech
yeah,
side of it. You're looking to do IPFS too to have like the actual media
yeah,
being hosted decentralized as well.
yeah. Eventually, yeah, you could absolutely, if IPFS is, yeah, and we've done like maybe a month and a half's worth of work, kind of like preparing for some sort of IPFS integration. Um, but it's kind of on pause right at the moment because yeah, all the text is stored on the Steem blockchain, and that turns out is sufficient in kind of creating a layer of censorship resistance at the database layer. and is sufficient in allowing a website to be fully functional, because a website can use links to draw out the images and the videos and things like that. But yeah, eventually it would be very cool to see an IPFS also supporting the video and the images and all that.
Yeah, like at least you have, one step, you're getting there too. Like I think if you wanted to do a white paper or even a patent of some sort, you can kind of timestamp it on the Steemit blockchain fairly easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be very easy to, go and visit that content, it's a little more effective than hashing, the content, because it's just so easy to go and review it and pull it out and all that stuff. So the content side of things is really, really important for this, because it also makes everything very auditable. Because really, if you think about the way Steem works, Steem has this budget, this sort of fire hose budget, and the community every day is redirecting the fire hose of Steem at the best articles and the best authors. And so it's very, very important that people can reliably look at content through, with redundancy. So see multiple block explorers showing the same thing, so they know that when they're upvoting stuff, they're really rewarding that author, that content. If you don't inextricably link the accounts with the content and with the tipping or the budgeting or whatever, then you can't be sure there can be attack vectors there. So yeah, for us, it was very, very important to truly have the content as part of this blockchain-based social network.
So Steam scaling right now, like, do you guys still have lots of nodes and lots of, full databases distributed all across the world, or what size is the blockchain?
That's a good question. I will have to do some research on that, because I don't have any specific numbers for you right now, but it is still fairly quick to get a full node up and running. And up until a few weeks ago, at least, it was possible to run a full node on a Raspberry Pi, despite all the data, all the immense amounts of data in this blockchain. It's possible to run a node on a Raspberry Pi. And the architecture that we built, I mean, if you think about, a blockchain that allows 3-second blocks, that has, also tested into the tens of thousands of transactions per second, there's some really state-of-the-art efficiencies here. And, because of that, we're not too worried about hitting any bottlenecks anytime soon.
Yeah, no problems with bloat or anything like that. Like, you could have a really long post of just spam or anything like that. But I know I've read a little bit on spam management too, like block size management.
Yeah, there's bandwidth rate limiting, and actually, when we were hacked, this hacker had all these accounts. Some of them were just kind of dust accounts or whatever, but when he had them, he was able to spam the network because the bandwidth rate limiting algorithms were not completely efficient. But yeah, it just comes down to one of the big innovations with Steem is the idea that you can transact a certain amount depending on how much Steem power you hold. And because of that setup, there's actually no transaction fees, and there's kind of built-in spam management. So yeah, those the spam management thing really hasn't been too bad of an issue. And the community they can sort of parameterize the way that works to respond to any spam attacks or anything like that.
Well, and as the platform scales, eventually, someone who has a lot of Steam power could essentially, like, oh, I only want these topics in the blocks, or like they can be a little more, I guess, selective of what's able to make it through, that sort of thing, right? Have you guys had any issues with maybe not censorship is the word, but content that is undesirable being posted or anything like that?
Just those Blocktalk posts, man.
Oh.
No,
Sure.
just
Okay.
kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. No, but when since you're not hosting any content, I guess you're saving yourself from a lot of headache in terms of having undesirable or illegal content on the platform. But I would still think they're like, well, say Mein Kampf gets put onto a post, like just as an example. But like, do you have users with a large amount of power who are actually actively going out and looking for things that should be downvoted to the point where they're not seen?
Right. So there's two layers here. There's the web application stack, or the application stack, and there's the blockchain layer. So the way Steemit has kind of been designed in its first iteration is that you have this community, these community derived algorithms for deciding what appears and what doesn't. But ultimately, that's not censorship. That's moderation. That's curation by a community. The blockchain itself can never be censored. So if that were published on the blockchain, it's there. All the witness nodes have that data stored somewhere. It's just that steemit.com as an interface, as a business, is choosing not to show that information. So has there been anything that we've had to respond to as a company? So one of our big challenges, and this is a challenge across the web, is the idea of protecting copyright. So from time to time, we get what's called a DMCA takedown. And that's essentially some purported owner of some content coming along and saying, hey, take down the content you're showing on your website because that's actually mine and someone else posted it. And that's pretty much, if we're compliant, we're totally compliant as a company in that regard. So the way we actually handle it, though, that's kind of cool, is we get the DMCA and then we publish the DMCA to the blockchain. So now everybody knows that we got this DMCA message. Any other interface based on Steem, any other website, there's actually a few now that are kind of desktop interfaces and mobile interfaces, can see that, and they can either choose to respond in the same way or they can ignore it. But it's also cool for the user base because users can see, oh wow, these guys are really getting, barrage of DMCA or whatever. It's a nice level of transparency that you don't get on other social networks. Well, on some you do. Sometimes you get ghost links. I forget who does that, Google or someone, I don't know. But yeah, we want to have full transparency with that sort of thing. The whole idea here is to return the value of contribution back to the users and to protect the users. And the way to do that is to create these value cycles with cryptocurrency and be very, very transparent with management of content. Ultimately, I see social networks becoming a sort of public utility. That's what I really hope Steem ends up being seen as. Even if it were supporting millions of people, I would hope that it's being run in a way that, or Steemit is being run in a way where people feel like they're an owner and that they can trust the information that they're seeing. That trust it to not be manipulated by the platform.
You mentioned there are other platforms or applications out there, mobile and desktop. Are there any notable ones that people should be checking out, or ones that you kind of are keeping a close eye on as potential competitors to the website?
Yeah, there's a couple of competitors that I really like, and I say really like because the whole thing is, although there's competition, it's all friendly because everyone's working towards building the same network effect, and everyone contributing to the content through these other applications. All that information circulates to the other applications. So it's really just like another door into the same house or into the same party. So I'm very supportive of that. I've got my eye on a couple mobile apps. There's eSteem. It's a phone gap construction by a guy in Europe who actually just met at a hackathon in Oslo last week. Terrific guy. There's another guy in Germany creating an Android-based app called Steemion, and there's two guys here in the US creating an Android and an iOS app called Steemy with a Y at the end. And they're doing some great work. Really experienced mobile developers there. And then there's a couple desktop apps. There's one called Busy. These guys have a tremendous goal to kind of like build, like kind of merge Steem with some Slack features and kind of have like some real-time communication on the blockchain. So I'm watching that. Yeah, there's been more than 95 applications built from the Steem blockchain or using Steem as a backend. There's a website called steamtools.com, and it almost feels endless. You get there, you see these statistics tools, you see the mobile apps, and just all these cool things you can do. There's such a wealth of data in the Steem blockchain, and that's where the real value is too. You think about, the incumbents of social media. These are companies that keep their data behind a walled garden. And when you build a social network on a blockchain, that's not possible anymore. All the data is there for everyone to take advantage of. And that's been really cool for the developer
Yeah, I remember
community.
checking the site out. I remember checking Steem Tools out a couple months ago, shortly after the show, and there was already a couple pretty good apps on it. But yeah, this is a fairly large page now, so it's pretty cool to see. Power down wealth checker. Keep an eye on those whales, Yeah, I think there's a lot to be checking out on Arduino. I'll have to look at that later. Damn, I gotta make sure, because I know there's so much going on. I usually switch to from Reddit to Steem every once in a while just to see the difference in content. Not more political posts, because I think with the whole election things going on right now, everybody is concerned about censorship and the media is out to get certain candidates and everything. It would have been interesting to see if you would have a more, I guess, representatory media platform of actual people now, because on Reddit you kind of get people fall into their own pockets of what they want to read, and that's all the posts you're getting. So it'd be kind of interesting to have just a generic one that's sorted by monetary value.
Yeah, I think there's a good representation on Steem of the libertarian community, the sort of outside the mainstream political viewpoint, and that's been really interesting. It's been really interesting to get that view. But yeah, it would be interesting to see people kind of playing from all positions, I guess. But yeah, wow, has this race been entertaining or what? And you're in Canada, and I guess are you paying attention or not really?
Yeah, it's kind of nice to watch from the sidelines. It's kind of like I don't know, when you like see the neighbors arguing or something, you can't help but look away. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's craziness, but it's definitely consumed our kind of our radio shows and media kind of too. It just becomes kind of a laugh track after a while, but we kind of have our own versions of it in some way. So it is what it is. But I do what I can to prevent any talk of politics on this show. So we'll maybe move on. I know you mentioned libertarians, and you actually had a really big member of the libertarian community kind of joined the platform, the one and only Dollar Vigilante. I know I've heard that name before. Jeff Warwick, I think it is.
Yeah, Jeff Berwick. He's been posting every day. He kind of a fiery sort of character in the libertarian community. Rallies people around his ideas for sure. But there's been a lot of other people too. Rick Falkving, who started the Pirate Party, has been on there. Number of other people. There've been some prolific authors too. Neil Strauss, who wrote The Game, which was an interesting novel. He's written some other novels, and he's written for the New York Times and Rolling Stone. Has been very prolific, and actually started a book club. So I believe it's every Tuesday or Wednesday. This guy Neil comes and meets with all these Steemers, and they talk about the book that they read, and then they post about it, and that's been pretty cool. And he's actually going to be, and so is Jeff Berwick, actually going to be at the Steem Fest in November. That's November 11th, 12th, and 13th. There's going to be this event. It's sort of the first, sort of the first really big conference. Oh, there it is. You pull it up. kind of geared around the Steem community, and it's actually been completely organized by a third party. It was amazing. Someone approached me, told me they were going to do this event, and they'd be able to do it without my help or anything like that. So it's been tremendous, and it really looks like it's going to be an excellent event for the early adopters of Steem. There's going to be some great speakers. There's going to be an unconference day on Sunday that should just be really terrific for getting to know everybody and exploring Amsterdam. I'm really looking forward to this event.
Yeah, I was actually just came back from Amsterdam and Spain at the beginning of October, and I did a little tour around. So if anyone's going to Amsterdam for this event, if you look on coin maps, you'll see a lot of like Bitcoin vendors and stuff. Majority of them don't accept Bitcoin anymore. I kind of found that out just kind of doing my little exploring. Like there was the Bitcoin Boulevard. There's a lot of, I guess, posts from 2014 that are still there, but the owners of those shops either don't know anything about it. But there is in Amsterdam, it's called The Truth. I tweeted about it. It's a donation-based restaurant, and everyone should go there and give a nice tip to them because it's very good food, and they don't list any pricing. It's all pay what you feel. So check that out. Yeah, I think Amsterdam and the Netherlands is a pretty cool spot for this. It's kind of cool that you guys have some community leaders on board for spreading the word. And
Alex,
you got a lot of
Alex, you should come to the event.
I would love to, but yeah, I just got back and I can't go to Amsterdam twice in 1 month. I would love to, but I don't have the Steem power for it, for the Steem dollar.
Well, it'll be fun. It'll be videotaped. Lots of pictures will be taken. It'll be really fun. And we'll do another one, in North America, next year, I'm sure. We've been talking about that, so hopefully we can announce that soon. But there's also another event coming up, actually this coming weekend, and I'm flying down to it. It's in South Africa, and it's called Steem Saturday. It's been put together by a number of steamers and people who have been in the business community for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to that too. And it just kind of goes to show, and I just got back from a hackathon in Oslo, which was like this crypto finance hackathon organized around Steem, and there were like 10 developers there, all focused on Steem projects. And we met with some of the captains of the finance industry in Norway, and had some great panel discussions and things like that. And so Steem is really rallying all these really talented individuals all around the world. And it's a testament to blockchains as a community builder. And we've seen this in a number of other communities too, specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum and Dogecoin and things like that. But with Steem, it's really special because you get to know people through their posts and their blogs, and it's really been very special. And yeah, so I hope to be doing more of these over the coming months and years.
Well, I actually have a couple questions from the Blocktalk community. We kind of bring them all together, and they all love the show and have some tough questions for you guys. And for you, Ned, I know we have quite a few questions on the economics of Steem. I just one in particular stood out for me was: have you guys briefed any exchanges on the plan to move the decimal place of Steem? Because you guys are changing the reward. Like it doubles every year, and then after a while, 1,000 Steem becomes 1 Steem, as I read it in the white paper.
Well, the exchanges are free to read the white paper and read the code and see how it goes. Well, sure, certainly the community should be notifying people of events like that. I think that there's no reason that they shouldn't be notified, but it's also several years away.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I think, well, the second part to the question was, are they aware that there could potentially be sub-Satoshi pricing? So you guys have this inflationary currency, right, that is going to be probably decreasing in value over the long span, because even if you have full market penetration, say your Reddit scale, or everyone who would ever use Steemit is on Steemit, you still have the inflation. So the pricing would eventually catch, or supply would eventually overcome demand, right? So there would have to be, I guess, some form of resolution to the market, right? Like exchanges might go ahead and price you guys at like, instead of having one Steem, you have 1,000 Steem, and like that's what the price of the charts all say,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's these sorts of concerns need to be fleshed out on paper and considered by the community. This is a great thing to write a post about. If someone can really point to the math and say there's going to be a problem here, they should make the community aware of it. And maybe this is the first time it's being discussed. Maybe it's not the first time. But, certainly whoever's writing this question, get in touch with me. I'll be happy to look into it more with you.
And just for my understanding, on a technical level, so you guys have the 8 decimal places for Steem, the Satoshi model of decimal places, right? So when you go from 1,000 Steem to 1 Steem, does that decimal place actually move? And when it does, are the Steemoshis, as we'll call them, are they rounded?
It's actually not the same, but I don't want it's not 8 decimals, but it's not. This is not the question for me right now. So we'll get Dan on for the next one to talk about the decimal rounding and all that, because he'll be the best one to ask.
All right, cool. And let's see here. They wanted to get your opinion on an article that was written recently. I'm sure it's come across your inbox. It was written by Trades Ace, and it wasn't written on Steemit, unfortunately. It was written on Medium. It was called "The Ugly Truth Behind Steemit," and there's a lot of opinions in this article, and some of which maybe I disagree with. But the one that I'm really curious to know more about is the launch of the coin. Now, I guess overall, what is your opinion of this article, and are you the Reverse Flash?
The Reverse Flash. Yeah, what a character. No, it's not me personally. No. But the whole thing with launching a coin is you have to ask, okay, how can we do this in a way that's meaningful? And the whole thing with Steem was we had a very specific experiment, a very specific business case that we wanted to pursue, and that was growing a community to be as large as we possibly could help it to grow to. And you also have to balance, if you're doing anything from the US or any sort of regulated nation state, you have to think about regulations. And the case history in the US is regarding these crypto tokens is not extensive, but there are some things you can look at from the SEC, including the Howey test, and from FinCEN, you can look at the Ripple case. And we really needed to avoid becoming a money transmitter. So you can't go and be in a position where you're an issuer of currency, and mining helps to get arm's length on that issue, and that's really important. It's the Satoshi route. It's a proven route. Satoshi started it. And then you also need to think, okay, well, can we also put a business in a position, one of these interfaces in a position, or a foundation in a position where they can use a portion of these tokens to help bootstrap the network? And you look at companies like PayPal and other companies that have done like sign-up programs, and some of these programs have been super successful. It's really how PayPal, really went to the moon in terms of user bases. They basically said, hey, sign up your friend and get $5. See this incentivized sign-up program. So that is something that's going to be important for a business like Steemit. Steemit owns a lot of Steem, and it's certainly part of the plan to use majority of that stake for promotional signups. So what I'm really saying is we were in a position where we looked at Ripple and we said, well, Ripple is kind of running a business here and it makes sense for them to have a very large portion of the stake. We kind of want to follow a similar model, but we don't want to fall into some of the regulatory crosshairs that they fell into. So we made sure to do mining. And I'll tell you what, it's been a really interesting ride. It's a really interesting experiment to go through that process of mining a coin into existence. But we did our best to write blog posts about why we did it. We wrote all about the regulatory landscape. We wrote about, and we've done Q&As about, using these tokens for growing the community. And, it's, what are your specific questions, Alex?
Well, I was just kind of curious of your opinion on it overall, but like many in the
it's an education thing. It comes back to education. I think a lot of the people who have been really harsh critics really saw this project come out of nowhere and like, what is this? And they find things that don't fit with their view of how crypto tokens should come into existence and all that. But really, if we were to sit down and we were to show them all of the groundwork that we've done to tell people who were participating in the project how and why we've gotten to where we've gotten, then it's a different story. And I looked at a lot of these types of pieces, and I'm like, okay, should I respond and things like that? And the fact is, we've been very transparent about how and why we've done these things, and the information's out there. So it's been great to have a supportive community of people who will go out and respond to these types, on behalf of Steem. And we've seen that in a number of cases. I'm sure this guy was responded to by several Steemers.
Yeah, no, I tried, when I Googled the title of it, it actually came up on Steem far more times than Medium. I actually had to dig a little bit to find the Medium post, but it was kind of interesting. But from, I guess, the people in the Blocktalk community who are very familiar with Bitcoin talk and how kind of coin launches go, they would describe this more as a ninja launch, where it was really low key. It was meant to, you guys had the network kind of going where it was very difficult to participate at the beginning, and only a select few were maybe able to figure it out, or the more technically savvy were able to. So it's
called a ninja launch.
Okay, well, so is there over, saying publicly we're going to have a pre-mine for signups, and you know what, we have Dan Larimer of BitShares,
So with the pre-mine thing, that's when you become an issuer of currency. As soon as you do a pre-mine, you're an issuer of currency, and you're subject to all the money transmission laws. And that's the reason we would have done a pre-mine. It would have been better to do a pre-mine and sort of allocate certain numbers of Steem to certain people, but it didn't feel like an option at that moment in time.
Yeah, I know that's something that I've been working on my own project, but sorting out the legality of things, this seems to be the most difficult. And it all comes down to liabilities and who can be to blame. But it kind of comes down to setting up a corporation to distance yourself from it. So maybe that would have been the better route if you could, I guess, redo it. But
well, we are a C corp. We of course have a C corporation here, but by mining something into existence and by not making any promises to anybody, all you've done is release software into the wild. And then everything that happens after that is community driven. Everything that has happened to Steem happened because people discovered the code and thought it had potential. Mm-hmm. There's no hyped up ICO here. This isn't something like that at all. So for people to be really, really upset that we wrote software and released it into the wild without hyping it up, it's a strange thing to be upset about, in my opinion.
No, I understand that, but I think part of the article that kind of resonated with a lot of people and their emotion was um, that there was claims that you guys tried to relaunch the network because the miner went down. Is there any validity to that, or?
There was a technical issue that crashed the network, and there was a miner who was acting very selfishly. That guy later went on to say that he was fudding to scare more people away to get more coins. So that person, to me, had lost all credibility when they did that. But in any case, relaunching just gave more people an opportunity to participate from block one. So if anything, people should be arguing that at that point it was more fair. So if people really want, more notice and more hype around these things, that's what they got. So it's a bit hypocritical.
Okay, no, I appreciate your views on this, Ned, and that's one of the reasons why I like having developers on the show, because I like to ask these in a more formal setting where I can get your reaction and know that you're true with the intent that you're saying, right? And like I said, there are some portions of this article that are very opinion based, like the one where it says imagine if each vote from a Reddit staff counted as 5,000 votes. This is basically what happens on Steemit. I think that's very hyperbolic, where like on Reddit you have the moderators who actually can promote posts and get rid of posts, and then you have like the general public, where now you kind of have this the grayscale. It's not black and white. Like there's a lot more transparency involved in that too. So that's why I say, like, there are portions where I'm curious, but there are other portions that I do disagree with the more opinion base of it.
Right. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, of course. And there's challenges in these types of things. And, how many coins have come into existence and how many different experiments have been run? We're all still learning. And this has been as much of a learning process for me and for Dan as for everybody else who has participated in this experiment. So, I welcome the opinions and the critics we expect. It's just a part of it. But all we can do is continue to try to build systems that, will improve, life for people, and, create experiments that we'll learn from and will be valuable to society. I think we've done that. I think this person is entitled to their opinion, and I hope that they've also learned from the experiment. I think this person can also be quoted as saying they want to fork the code and do it again because they think it's excellent technology. So, really, some of it comes down to people just wanted an opportunity to be involved. And that's what I've noticed with even some of the most diehard supporters of other crypto communities. If they were approached, if they were told about the technology early on and were kind of invited to participate, then they're very happy to be supportive. But if they didn't kind of get that white glove invitation, then they never really understood the project and they feel like an outsider, and they write critiques like this. I mean, maybe that's just my opinion, or my experience, but I'm just.
Well, I think this kind of comes back to the whole economic argument too, where it's like people who got in early on to, say, even Ethereum did very well for themselves, but then everyone who came after the fact is probably based on the fact that there's not much of a return for them. Like they're more incentive to try and short and FUD the project than they do to actually participate and say good things.
That's what I love about crypto. The incentives rule the world. It's and you can see it. And with Ethereum, as Ethereum became bigger and bigger and bigger, you had more people on both the Bitcoin and Ethereum bandwagons. It's who's paying the rent. It's just the nature of the world. You can't blame anybody for it.
Now, I got a question in the chat here, and I just pulled it up to double check. I think it's true. I was like, are you currently powering down, Ned?
Yeah, I powered down. I sold a small portion of my stake, very, very small percentage. it's, you know, been good to have a little money after having no money for a little while. Been terrific. But ultimately, you know, it's a very, very small portion of my stake.
No, it's understandable. So you're currently full time for Steem, and Ned is, or Dan is as well. You have a couple other people who are working on the project too, full time or part time or contract.
Yeah, we've got 10. There's like 10 full-time people. We've got me, we've got our head of operations, and then everybody else is on the tech side, programming away and building the systems. We've hired some of the, you know, some really strong names from the Bitcoin industry who, you know, in the infosec space as well, who, you know, do hack response and that sort of thing, and have come on and been very infatuated by the project. Of course, there's Dan. We've got some top-notch blockchain developers. And, you know, combined, well, our front end developers who have also worked on other blockchain projects before, combined, with all those people, there's more than 15 years experience of people working on blockchain projects, maybe more now that we're already 8 months into this one. So it's a very experienced team. It's a very passionate team. But it also, you know, I would consider that our team to be even bigger than this, because after experiencing the hackathon in Oslo, after seeing Steem tools, you know, become filled with 95 apps, you realize that the community is also the team, and there are so many passionate people out here, you know, working on the development side, but also acting as, you know, the evangelists for the technology. So I look at the team as the community, and a big part of running Steemit is engaging with the community and helping direct people to these different opportunities in building apps and going to events and things like that. So
yeah, and I think the platform is that's one thing we talked about in the last show was really cool about it. It was there's a lot of development incentives, because if you post, hey, I made this really cool app, like check it out, and then you're probably going to do pretty well because the platform is going to reward that. And the other thing I've seen was actually like advertisements have been like getting put up. Like people put up billboards. I have a friend in Auckland, New Zealand. He's seen a Steemit billboard there. It's like, I never see anything.
Oh, that's cool.
And now I see a Steem poster. So he was kind of jokes about that. But no, I think that's kind of one of the interesting elements, like we kind of talked about in the last show. It's almost DAO-like in a way. But
well, break that down. Decentralized autonomous organization. It is. The way this one works is there's this community budget, the fire hose of Steem, and it's the community's job to point that fire hose where they want it to go. That's a community process. That's wisdom of the crowd. That's decentralized organization.
Yeah. But my other question, I guess, is your corporation, or you and Dan and the other developers, are you guys actively seeking funding, VCs or anything, or are you pulling everything kind of out of the platform?
Yeah, I'm in quite a few talks right now, and we're also considering the nonprofit model. There's a few, as things have happened. I mean, there's been a number of offers on the table. Number of offers seem to still be on the table, but what I want to make sure that we do is we put Steemit and Steem in a position to really come into the attention economy in a way where the incentives are aligned between the platform and the users. And the tricky thing about taking VC funding is that seems to quickly misalign the incentives between the platform and the users, because now you have a third party, you have the investors. And to some extent we have that today, but we also have a very focused group who wants to really, you know, bring us into the future of social networks where these things are truly public utilities that are returning the value of contribution back to the users. So I want to make sure that happens, and I've been exploring models, you know, of creating a foundation, a nonprofit that it would potentially support that model. There's a few kind of options on the table right now in terms of continuing to fund, but we have runway of probably 18 months at current at current scale. So, we have some time and we have some more experimentation to do with the website. So.
Well, this Friday, I'm speaking with Simon Dixon of Bank to the Future. He's done a couple funding rounds for notable projects in the space. So anyone interested in that show, be sure to like and subscribe down below. And yeah, we'll be chatting with Simon Friday at this time. But yeah, maybe you guys need to get on Bank to the Future, see if you can do a equity crowdfund on that. But like you say, I'm not sure like where a lot of these investors are expecting to get a return from. Like when I look at Open Bazaar getting funding, I'm like, well, I don't understand how Open Bazaar will take fees.
Right. Well, if we truly got into the attention economy where revenue was going to buy Steem and then the Steem was being burned, then you probably are entering a period now where there's far more buy pressure than sell pressure, more demand than supply. That's kind of one of my theses about the attention economy and doing the foundation is potentially you could fund it based on that premise. But yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to work through. Bank to the Future, very interesting project. Someone told me recently that actually it was one of the designers. It was the designer that I work with. Told me he invested in Kim.com's latest venture through Bank to the Future.
Yep, that was the last funding round they did was BitCash. They did I think they raised $800,000 or something, which for blockchain technology seems rather low. But I think there wasn't. I don't know. It's just the platform too. It's a lot to talk about with Simon about ICOs versus their more legal framework for doing fundraising. So we'll see. But you guys would probably end up your Steem power that you've accumulated, right? Like, or not Steem power, your Steem. Like, I think that's part of what happens on with these deals too. Is like there's a large wholesale of coins, but
right. Well, Steemit owns like 48% or something like that, and that's all earmarked for either building out the infrastructure and covering operating expenses of running the infrastructure or doing promotional signups. So potentially there's a powder keg there that can be used to raise money into some structure, foundation, or something like that. So
48% with delegated proof of stake. So you guys are able to do hard forks fairly easily for upgrades then, right?
Yeah, it could potentially happen. I would look at it today. The whole thing with blockchains, the analogy that I find is very important is that when something comes into existence, if you look at life always comes into existence as single-celled, and it can't be two cells before it's one, right? And blockchains are the same, and it starts out small, it becomes a child, it becomes a young adult, it becomes an adult. Steem is still growing up. There's still some value in being able to guide its growth. But over time, the absolute goal is a fully decentralized platform. And we're trying to take steps to make sure it gets there in a fruitful and meaningful way.
Training wheels, yeah. I think that's
training wheels.
Well, so has there been many hard forks, I guess, recently for upgrades and anything? Like, I thought there's been at least one since the last show back in May.
Yeah, there's been a few. There's been some cool blockchain level stuff that's come into play. One of the things was Next NXT style savings accounts. I think it was NXT that was the first to do blockchain level savings accounts, where you can take assets and you can put them into this sort of blockchain based smart contract that says, if you want to move these assets, it'll take 3 days for the contract to execute. And that's a very important feature that marriages very nicely with hacked account recovery. Because if you're ever hacked, now you have 3 days to go in, do recovery, and stop that transaction. And hold on to your funds. So that was one thing. There've been a number of other things, but they're very scheduled. It's like it's probably happening every 3 weeks now, and then over time, hopefully, it becomes every 6 weeks, every 3 months, and then what the real goal for Steemit Inc. and Dan and all our guys on the blockchain level, the real goal is to stop doing hard forks, completely freeze the features. And the reason is, you can kind of look at blockchains, through the analogy of a rolling stone gathers no moss. And for people to truly be able to rely on and trust these protocols, they have to be able to see them as something that's not going to change. To build a business on a platform, you have to trust that the platform will always support its applications the same way. So yeah, there's some scheduled hard forks happening now. It's probably happening every 3 weeks at the moment.
Okay. I'm just scrolling through the chat here to kind of get some final questions, but I think we'll kind of get close to wrapping up here.
Yeah, and I'm on this new iPhone 7, and it did you see how it has like just one headphone jack now, and the headphone jack is the charger jack? So like this thing is telling me I was at 10% like a minute ago. So I'm like, shoot, I need to plug this thing in, but if I do that, then I lose the headphones.
See, that's how they get you, though, right? Like it's they're making everything obsolete that you have to buy all their stuff, right? Like my last iPhone was the 4S that had the original plug on it. And like I had that phone for like 5 or 6 years because I just was putting a stand down. Like, no, Steve Jobs, this is what I'm sticking with.
I wish I could do that. I was too excited about the 7.
I went for a Note Edge or a Galaxy, not a Note, not the exploding one. I got the Edge, the Samsung S7 Edge, and they've got a Gear VR over here somewhere that I'm playing around with, so it's pretty cool stuff. Anyways, not really anything major in the chat here. I know some people want you to have a chat with Tone Bays, but did we lose him? I think we lost him. Ned. I think he's gone. I've just seen a freeze frame image of him, so I'm not sure what to make of it. All right. Well, I'm just gonna assume that yeah, he's gone. That was a good chat though. Thanks for coming out, Ned. And yeah, Steam Fest is November 11th, 12th, and 13th in Amsterdam. Check it out, steamfest.com if you want to go and meet him. Yeah, he's gone. Oh, wait. Is he back? Oh, there he is.
Hey, sorry about that. My phone died.
It is much. I was just telling you that I bought the Galaxy S7 Edge, but yeah, wrap the show up then.
All right, sounds good. Wait, is it? Are we live still, or it's over?
Oh no, we're still live.
Oh, okay.
But we got to get one last question, which is, what do you think the Bitcoin price is going to be next week?
Next week, I don't know. But maybe what I've been thinking about with Bitcoin is that by the end of the year, it's going to be way up. We're kind of looking at the bull. We're really coming out of the 2-year bull. The market cap is back almost at the all-time high. And the price has been moving up, and we're heading into holiday season just like we were in 2013 when things got really big. And holidays is when everyone gets together and tells their family and friends, their investment tips and stuff like that. I think we're in for some real great movement going through the end of the year.
Well, you said you're. I've heard in another show that your dad's actually a Wall Street type guy. He works in finance.
Yeah, that's my dad. He's a Wall Street veteran. I grew up just outside New York City, and my dad's always been a trader, banker type, and I never really wanted to be part of that world. And actually, I remember when I first discovered Bitcoin, I had just read this Yahoo Finance article all about it, and I turned to my dad and I say, "Dad, what do you think about this digital currency stuff?" And he goes, "Look, son, I don't pay attention to the fads." I'm like still here working on this stuff. So, yeah, I've always kind of had sort of a counterculture feeling, regarding Wall Street. But, since getting into crypto, I really enjoy the technical analysis stuff and the big picture analysis stuff.
Well, you have to tell your dad, it's like, oh, you got to get on this Steem, it's a hot new thing. These Steem dollars are virtually backed by a blockchain.
he's actually he's really come around to the whole thing, which is cool. It's cool to see that happen.
Yeah, no, I'm fighting an uphill battle here myself, trying to get my family to understand it more. But I'm going to need at least a number from you, even if you got to call the old man to get it.
Okay, for next week, we're at 650 right now. Let's say it's at 670.
Yeah. Okay. 70. I think that's a pretty good number. Yeah, we're kind of at the top of that range. I'm gonna maybe one up you and say 680. And just for shits and giggles, we'll go to the YouTube chat and see if they're gonna say any numbers here once the stream gets to them. Because yeah, I kind of agree with you. The end of the year looks very bullish. If not for Christmas and the the seasonality of it, but also for the whole American elections to have plan B, as I'll call it. None of the above is Bitcoin, because I think we have probably the least favorited candidates in like all-time history. I think marijuana being legalized is charting higher than any candidate is.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Hopefully, it'll be a really exciting few months. I know I'll be talking about it at the holiday parties and changing the topics from who the new president is or whatever.
Oh, very good. Yeah, you got to get something with more substance. So we got two guesses here: Richie Rich with 699 and P Funk with 650. So yeah, no, it's D Funk. Put
P Funk the bear. I'm surprised.
Hey, he's undercutting you. All right. Now, before I lose my voice here, thanks everyone for tuning in. Ned, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great chat and catch up on the whole Steemit blockchain and the platform. And best of luck at Steem Fest. I hope you guys have a whale of a time and lots of good posts come out of it.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Alex. Let's do it again soon. Hope to see you at the next Steem event.
Yeah, sounds good. And everyone at home, we'll see you in the next 1,000 blocks.